So what will they remember you for? From the moment you step on stage to the moment you leave, every second should be spent entertaining the crowd. That's the job you got. That's the job you signed up for. So, will they remember you? Or will they forget you? Let's talk about it.
All of my, I just want all of my chips.
What's going on with you, ladies and gentlemen? It's your man's the meticulously multi-talented Mark W. coming at you one more time yet again. How are you? Welcome to Artistry Ascending. Today, it's a special one because y'all know how I am about performances. We're diving into stage presence, charisma, that thing that is uniquely you. I don't know if y'all remember this. A couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, I want to say about a little bit more than 30, James Brown was performing. Now, this clip is now notorious, but James Brown was performing and he brought up Michael Jackson. A young Michael Jackson, still black Michael Jackson, but he brought him up and he did his thing on stage. And if you watch the behind the scenes of what Michael Jackson did, then you'll understand what he did was kind of a dig at Prince, but that's not what we're going to talk about. He brings up Prince. I don't know about you. I never want to follow anybody as big as Michael Jackson. It's just not fair. He can walk into a room and everybody is silenced or gets loud as hell. So he has a daunting task of following a legend in the making like Michael Jackson. But Prince, being Prince, he gets on stage, grabs a guitar and does his 1-2. He actually gets a little too sexual, brings down a light pole, but he still does his thing. And by the end of the show, you know who Prince is. My point here is when you're in a situation where you're not necessarily the biggest person in the room, how do you make them remember you? What will they remember about you? That's what stage presence is. You don't have to look like anybody else. In fact, it should never look like anybody else. It should only look like you. The best quote I ever heard Nipsey Hussle say, and it's not so much his, but he credits the person who's supposed to go to. It's, if we gave your song to somebody else, will that song still sound the same? If it does, then you ain't put enough of you in there yet. It's the same thing with a stage show. If I give your stage show to somebody else and it looks the exact same, well, then we got to go back to the drawing board. So the idea here with stage presence is how do we find out what's special about you and display that? All right, so we know how you need to show up on stage. Got to be uniquely you. But let's dive deeper into that. What's your style? How do you present yourself? And no, we're not talking about the drip and the latest shoes you got on, even though you cute and there that. That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about what version of you is people going to see on that stage. Let's take, for example, someone like Childish Gambino or Donald Glover. Now, for a lot of people who don't know, Donald Glover actually is a comedian. He had a stand-up. He also had a show called Community. Now, let me ask you, really, would you want to see the guy from Community on stage delivering Redbone? Would you really want to see that? Or This Is America? I remember Community. That dude was cheesy. That dude was corny. That same dude cannot deliver This Is America. It's a deep song, deep cut. If you remember the video, he hit a lot of imagery that spoke about a lot of different things that was going on in America at the time. Take it a step further, when he did the movie with Rihanna, I'm going to put that movie title somewhere because I can't think of it right now. But when he did the movie with Rihanna, we heard This Is America in there as well. That version of Donald Glover I wanted to see. That version we all have come to know as Childish Gambino. Childish Gambino is the artist. That is the style. That's the finesse. That's the presence we want to see. Let's go to another portion of the map. Kendrick Lamar from our home state of California. Now, for everybody that's here in California, we know where he's from, Compton. That's the home of a big flag. Catch the innuendo there. So, do we know Kendrick to pop all the stuff we know of that side of the street? No, we don't know him to do that. We know him to be someone who's woke, as it were. But we don't know the type of people he keeps around him. To a certain extent, he doesn't necessarily parade that around because that's not the image he wants to put forward. That's not the style that he wants to be known for. We have plenty of that imagery. We want to see what gets him going. How did he look when he was performing that in the studio? That's the image we want to see on stage. I got a short story for you. There was a time I was dating this young lady and we got close, right? I don't know if you're aware of this, but this whole thing that I'm doing is a persona. This is not how I am at home. At home, I'm quiet, really quiet. I know most of the people here at Track Life find that hard to believe, but I keep to myself. I'm in my head most of the time. But how boring would that be if you saw that on stage? She fell in love with the person she saw on stage. I love it. I love that she fell in love with that. But that's where you want your fans to be. You want your fans to fall in love with that person that's on stage. You want your fans to fall in love with the imagery, the character even that you're presenting while you're in your stage presence. Those are the people that's going to come to shows. Those are the people that's going to buy your music. Those are the people that's going to be unafraid to wear your merch outside of your show. So, ladies and gentlemen, not only should you work on your presence, you should also work on your style. You got your stage presence together. You got a little bit of style to you, but now you're at the show and you're just performing to yourself. When I say performing to yourself, you're not engaging the people that came to see you. Let's take a look, for example, Freddie Mercury. Y'all know Queen? Right. They got this famous concert at Live Aid. If you know anything about it, at that time, he was actually going through a whole bunch of health crises. He was at this point, he had full-blown AIDS. That actually speaks to the fact that he was still trying to get the crowd engaged. Pete, when you watch the video, if you look at the crowd in the background, they look like little ants, little dots of color. Now imagine you're one of those little dots. You're looking at this little white dot that's in the middle of this huge stage. That little white dot has to get your attention. How much power does one person need to have in order for him to say, "Hey-oh"? And you feel that all the way in the back. Now we know Freddie Mercury has been doing that for years. In fact, if you notice his little half mic stand, that happened from the movie, we know. That was a malfunction. And now that's his stage presence. He carries that along with him. And if you're a day one fan, you've come to appreciate that. Let's go another day one fan, if you are one of those. J. Cole. Years ago, 2014, Forest Hills Drive, consequently came out in 2014. He does this homecoming tour. He actually does this motion where he puts his hand up like this. Now, for me, when I watched it, when he did that, it looked like he was throwing his hand to the back of the rafters. And everybody in the back simultaneously had to put their hand up. Now, we know that as the hip hop gesture of everybody put your hands up. All right, cool. Let's take it a step further. If you're a real J. Cole fan, then you know he has his ad-lib sketch. I think it was from Born Center, where he says, "Bitch," or some real low cool shit, "Bitch." He actually gets you engaged with that. Now, if you're a fan of his and he does that at a show, you automatically know what's happening. You're dialed in, you're laughing, you're along with them, you're engaged. But what if you're not a day one fan? And that's your first time hearing that. Well, what that does is make you feel like, I want to get involved too. I want to know what the inside joke is. Well, now everybody else feels like they have to be on board with it. That's how you get your fans involved. That's how you get people engaged with your show. They want to feel like they're getting a real sense of who you are. Let's take mine, for example. What I like to do when I'm on stage, if you couldn't tell already, I'm a little goofy. I actually overshare a whole lot more than I should on stage, which is actually the opposite of what I do at home. I don't ever talk at home, but I overshare when I'm on stage. I use this to my advantage. I'll give you a behind the scenes look of what actually happened during the recording session. Give you a good example. I was in this group called Lost Dialect. What we like to do is take our bars and rework them into something that you probably wouldn't want to say out loud to anybody else. One of my group mates, Quest, he has this line. He says, "Ah, yes, back to this, I guess, had to pull the little black book out of my desk." You don't know where I'm going with this? I'm going to help you out. We say, "Ah, yes. Back to this, I guess, had to pull the little black dick out of my dress." All right, so this is what we do. I share stuff like this on stage. It gets the crowd involved. I'm goofy, I'm silly. That's what I lean on. What do you lean on to get people to feel your energy? How do you get the audience engaged with who you are as a person? You got the presence, you got the style. Now you got to get them involved. That's how you get a day one fan. And that's how you keep those fans coming back for more. So in closing, your presence, your style, your crowd engagement, all of these things make up the complicated signature that is uniquely yours. And of course, we want to make sure that thing is unforgettable. So for more tips and tricks please make sure you tune in to Track Life and always check back in for Artistry Ascending. I'm your man, the meticulously multi-talented Mark W, coming at you one more time, yet again. How are you? Tap in with me. You know I tap back. Peace.
All of my, I just want all of my chips.